There's been a ton of speculation about what the Raptors' direction is going to be post-trade deadline, and tons of reports are coming out this week suggesting which players may find themselves on new teams. And there's a report that has risen up in the last 24 hours suggesting the Raptors and Nets are linked in trade talks between Ben Simmons and Pascal Siakam. And if this report is true, then Masai Ujiri has officially lost his mind. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports, your source for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. If you like to see videos like this and live stream watch parties for virtually every single Raptors game, then please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You can help me on the road to 14,000 subscribers, and you'll enjoy all this great Raptors content, especially ahead of the trade deadline, where we are expecting some fireworks for this franchise. Also, if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, please remember to smash that like button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. But the video in question today, a little bit more concrete reports have surmounted about the Raptors and the possibilities heading into the trade deadline. Yesterday, we did a video speculating about what the direction would be, which players we think are going to be on the move. But even just yesterday, we had so many different reports about which teams are interested in which players, and Adrian Wojnarowski specifically reporting on the fact that trade talks are going through the Raptors today. Is exactly as we were predicting on this channel, with the end of this West Coast road trip being the foundation, the start of the real trade season, as every team around the NBA was queuing up to see exactly what the Raptors were going to do. And with so many great players, maybe even the best player available being a player on the Toronto Raptors, I would say 3 to 4 of the 5 best players that could be available at the trade deadline being on this team. Well, the Raptors completely hold the key to this trade deadline, as teams want to see what they are going to be asking for from the players, in terms of trades. Which players at all are going to be available to trade, because the Raptors, they can't trade everybody, can they? So as teams look to position themselves in this very parity-driven league right now, where so many teams feel like this might be their year, lots of teams are asking around here, and not a lot of teams elsewhere are making many moves until they understand, where OG ANunoby is going to end up, where VanVleet is going to end up, where Trent Jr is going to end up. And now, concrete reports suggesting potentially Pascal Siakam could be on the move. Fresh off of trading away Kyrie Irving, the Brooklyn Nets continue to mean business. Yes, they got a pretty solid return given the circumstances. Spencer Dinwiddie's enjoying one of his best seasons, if not the best season of his career. He's going to make up a little bit of the numbers left off by Kyrie Irving, but in terms of winning a championship in that city, well, the clock is definitely ticking on that team. I mean, Harden is already gone. He's been gone. Kyrie Irving is now gone. Kevin Durant is out there on his own as a lone superstar there. Kevin Durant may be on the move in the offseason. I mean, he asked for a trade last offseason. He notices that the team, isn't where it was a week ago. He might be asking for a move at some point, maybe even this summer that is upcoming. So the Brooklyn Nets need to capitalize on this team right now if they want to go and win a championship. And with that trade for Kyrie Irving, yes, they got some solid pieces like Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a first-round pick in 2 seconds, but all of that doesn't really mean much in the future, because, I mean, we know the clock is ticking on this team. They're looking for action right now. They are looking to bring in players to supplement Kevin Durant and his bid to win a championship with this city. And they've been asking heavily, and there are concrete reports suggesting this, they've been asking heavily around a lot of the Raptors players, such as Fred VanVleet. They've shown interest as well in OG ANunoby, but a specific player that has risen up in these trade talks is Pascal Siakam. Now, if you asked me like 2-3 weeks ago if I thought Pascal Siakam was going to get traded, I would say like there's a very, very little chance in that happening. But as the days go by, it seems like it's kind of creeping up in the percentages here. I wouldn't make this anywhere close to a 50% chance that he gets traded, but I would say it's much more of a significant percentage than 0 here. Pascal Siakam might be a little bit frustrated with what's going on with the Raptors right now, and the Raptors might feel like this core has just run its course. Instead of trying to make something out of this core being mediocre, they want to completely start fresh and build around Scottie Barnes. Now, that is only a decision they will take if the price is right and they actually get a really good deal for their near star player, their near superstar player in Pascal Siakam, who I think we can all agree with here should have been an all-star this season above the likes of Drew Holiday and DeMar DeRozan. I mean, that's for a different video that we already have done on this channel, but Siakam has a lot of value here. We saw what a lot of the star players around the league are going for. Like, we saw what DeJounte Murray went for. If we're going to be trading away Pascal Siakam, we better expect a haul. And apparently, the Raptors are kind of searching for that haul, and maybe they're searching around the Brooklyn Nets to get that haul, because there are concrete reports suggesting that the Raptors, Masai Ujiri, they have engaged with talks with the Brooklyn Nets in a trade involving Pascal Siakam and Nic Claxton and Ben Simmons. Now, Nic Claxton's a player that I have been a big fan of for a couple of years now that I've wanted the Raptors to pick up. And, you know, the Raptors did try to make a big push last year at the trade deadline when they offered a first-round pick in exchange for Nic Claxton, a package centered around both of those things, and the Brooklyn Nets declined. Now, we had no idea Claxton would take such a significant jump this season to get to a near DPOY level. In fact, he might win the goddamn Defensive Player of the Year award, and the Raptors still have interest there, but he's a significant part of what the Brooklyn Nets do, and in their bid to win a championship this season, it seems difficult to pry him away from the Brooklyn Nets, even with somebody like Pascal Siakam in the mix. Now, the Raptors, they want a lot more than Claxton and all these picks. They also have to match up salaries in this scenario. Claxton doesn't make a ton of money. Well, somebody who does is Ben Simmons, and apparently his name has been involved in these trade discussions, which was met by genuine hysteria from Raptors fans. And you know what? It is absolutely warranted. Ben Simmons, we've been super critical for a long time over Ben Simmons, especially in the Raptors fan base, because there seems to be consistent links and reports to the player coming to the Raptors through a trade, and we've always been, at least I've always been, keep that away from me. Even before we got to this point where Simmons was essentially an absolute zero on the court, a complete and utter useless player on the court, essentially. Ben Simmons he just provides you nothing. He doesn't shoot the ball because he's scared of getting fouled. He can't score. His playmaking, yeah, it's still there, but with no threat of doing anything other than pass the ball, it's very difficult for him to have any of those significant playmaking sets. Yeah, he's a solid rebounder still, and he sets screens. Essentially, he is playing like the backup center with Brooklyn. He starts games. After 4 minutes, he comes out, and he's only used in the minutes that Claxton is on the floor because Claxton can't shoot, but he affects the game in other ways. Ben Simmons can't shoot, so both those guys can't be on the floor, and so they aren't. Ben Simmons is essentially the backup center for the Brooklyn Nets. He is getting paid like a superstar. This year, Ben Simmons is making almost $36 million. Next year, he's going to be making nearly $38 million. And the season after that, he's going to be making just over $40 million to essentially be a backup big who just sets screens, sometimes makes some passes, play makes a little bit. But beyond that, Ben Simmons, taking away the salary implications of the player, he just doesn't really do anything on the court. And then you add in the fact that he's getting paid about $80 million in the next 2 seasons. And that's what the Raptors would have to take on if they were to bring him into the team. That just does not make sense. Masai Ujiri, his track record with the Raptors, I would say his track record in the draft is very good. His track record with free agents is very not good. But when it comes to trades, he is pretty much unblemished. Other than maybe sign-and-trade scenarios where you're pretty much guaranteed to lose in those scenarios, although the sign-and-trade that he did made, I think you could argue right now that he has won that trade involving Kyle Lowry and Precious Achiuwa. And there might be a suspicion that the Thaddeus Young trade could turn out to be a losing trade for the Raptors. Some would say it is. But beyond that, there's no dispute that he has not lost any trade with the Raptors. His track record with trades has been excellent. But if he were to make this trade and send Siakam to the Nets for a package around Claxton, Simmons, and picks, that is pretty much close to grounds to firing a guy. No matter what he's done, that would be a complete and utter detriment to your franchise for the next 2 seasons, where there is significance on building your team and getting it back up to what it was, completely retooling, potentially rebuilding your team. That would be such a significant detriment to your team to have to take on that Ben Simmons contract. And there's no amount of picks here from the Brooklyn Nets that could make up for that. The Brooklyn Nets, there's the rights to swap with the Houston Rockets have the right to swap with the Brooklyn Nets this season. It certainly doesn't look like they're going to be swapping those picks because of how bad the Houston Rockets record is. So essentially, the Brooklyn Nets do control their draft pick to a certain degree this season. but they don't control their draft pick again, their first round draft pick that is, until 2028. What picks are really going to be involved in this discussion? Is it going to be this year's first that is going to be a very late first round picks given how good the Brooklyn Nets have been, how good they would be if they added in Pascal Siakam? 2028, that might be a pretty valuable pick because I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to go down the tubes in the next couple of years. Then you have that 2029 first from the Dallas Mavericks, but these are so far away. The Raptors are in the business right now of retooling their team. We need assets now. We don't need those assets 5-6 years from now. This is a significant era of the Raptors that we're about to enter where Scotty Barnes is going to be, hopefully, the player that leads us into greener pastures in the future. We need to start putting players that fit around him. We shouldn't be worrying about all these assets down the line. So, yeah, there could be picks. Yeah, I mean, Nic Claxton would be sensational for this team. I've wanted him for a number of years, and right now he's the best he's ever been, and it's looking like he's only going to get better. But taking that Ben Simmons contract and taking those picks way down the line just does not make any sense for the Raptors. Why would Masai Ujiri do that? And I'll ask again, when we're in a situation like this, where there's so many reports, a lot of them conflicting each other in NBA media, I ask, why would we do this? Why would Masai Ujiri do this? And sometimes in these scenarios, and a lot of the times in these scenarios, common sense prevails. Common sense really does prevail. Masai Ujiri is not an idiot. Yes, he left the team in a pretty perilous spot this season with the inability to bring in the right talent in the offseason, include Bobby Webster into those ones as well, include the entire Raptors front office into everything that has gone wrong this season, of course. But he is not an idiot. I really believe that. I really believe that this trade logically just makes absolutely no sense. There is not any rationale that would suggest that this trade makes sense in any way whatsoever for the Raptors to make. And the reports that have come out linking Siakam and Simmons into a trade here, there's been discussions. I think that we pretty much have confirmation at this point. There's been discussions. But what do those discussions really look like? We don't know. Is it the Brooklyn Nets asking, hey, you guys want Claxton? We want Siakam, but you'll have to take on the Ben Simmons. And the Raptors going, well, that's just straight up not going to happen. I feel like that is more likely than the Raptors actually entertaining any sort of trade where they're going to be receiving Ben Simmons and giving away Pascal Siakam. I mean, just taking Ben Simmons for free right now seems like a bad move for your team because of the amount of money that he's owed. And sure, there's the old all-star potential. And he still is a great defender. He's DPOY level defense a lot of the time, but you can't have him on the floor in late game situations because he just cannot shoot the ball. He cannot score the ball, cannot take free throws. They'll hack him at half court. All of these things make him a player you do not want on your team and a complete disaster situation. But Masai Ujiri knows that. Bobby Webster knows that. So in this situation with all these reports, and we don't really know the exact truth, but what I do on this channel is I take all the information, try to piece it together, and come up with the best sort of theory as to what is really going on in this situation. And in this instance, I believe the Brooklyn Nets have suggested the Raptors take on Ben Simmons. And I choose to believe in this scenario that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are really not going to be entertaining anything of the sort. Sure, it can come up in discussions, but it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. And again, common sense should prevail in this scenario. There's no way the Raptors can take on that Ben Simmons contract. Even if you feel like you can get him back to his best, what a conflict of archetypes with Scotty Barnes. You're upset with Scotty Barnes' usage right now. That is a very similar player. Two guys who don't shoot the ball very well, two guys who don't get defended on the perimeter. It would just be an utter disaster. That is why I choose not to believe it. And I just really hope for my sake, but much more importantly, the sake of the franchise, that this is not going to happen. And I hope I don't get proven wrong. I just choose to believe that for my sake, I'm not proven wrong, and for your sake and for the fan base and for the team's sake, that this is not going to happen. And I think logically looking at all of it, there's a lot of noise going on right now. You can choose whether or not you believe it. I choose not to believe this one. Ben Simmons will not be in a Raptors uniform beyond the February 9th trade deadline. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. What do you think of this whole trade situation? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy, remember to hit that like button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. And make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports and hit that notification bell to get ready for all of these trade deadline videos coming your way very, very soon. We'll have a watch party tomorrow for the Raptors game against the Spurs. Then the day after is trade deadline day. Friday, there's some great videos coming your way and all the reaction. We'll see you again next time for another video or a piece of content.